Jamie, first things first.
Right.
You and I have known each other for a long time.
Right.
But since we've started the podcast and since we've started the Scene Vault Twitter feed and all that, we've been in touch a lot more than we have been in years past. And I think the one thing that kind of strikes me about you is that you are a memorabilia collector. You are a connoisseur. Some would say a pack rat. Others would say a hoarder.
Yes, you just described me to the full sense, yeah.
How did that get started originally? How did that get started?
Man, when I guess when I worked for Chad Little,
Okay.
I just asked him, I said, hey, man, can I have one of your old helmets?
Yeah.
And he took his helmet off at Charlotte and handed it to me, and he said, Merry Christmas.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, wow. And I would ask drivers which this stuff didn't mean a whole lot back then to these guys. Hey, at the end of the year, can I have your suit? Why do you want that?
Yeah, yeah.
And, and then it got to be shoes. Rick Mast, hey, at the end of the year, can I have your shoes? Because he wore one pair and he wore the heel about out. And he said, he says, yeah. And he signed them and he said, don't let me ever see these on eBay. So, that's where that came about. And I always had to drag something home, sheet metal or a wheel or whatever, and drove my parents crazy. So that's where that came about.
Well, one of these days we are going to do a full-length documentary on your entire collection. But the reason why we're here today is we are talking about John Andretti.
Right.
And you have told me for quite some time that you actually picked up his uniform from when you guys won at Daytona in 1997. Tell me the story of how that whole scenario played out. How did you wind up with his driving shoes and his gloves and his actual uniform that he wore that day? How did that come about?
Well, and sometime in '97, he had bought a piece of furniture for Nancy, and there was a problem with it. And he asked me, since I'm in the furniture business, he said, "Can you fix it?"
Now, did you sell it to him?
No. He bought it.
Okay,
they had bought something on the West Coast.
Because you can't be selling John Andretti crap now.
That's right. I'm in the scratch and dent business, but John didn't buy scratch and dent.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But I drove to Mooresville and picked up the piece, took it home. My dad and I fixed it. I take it back to him, and he says, "What do I owe you?" And I just said, "Man, I'd like to have your shoes that you won the firecracker wearing." And he goes, "My shoes?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, let me find them and I'll mail them to you." So I'm getting in the truck to leave, and he comes back out of the house and he hands me a $20 bill. And he goes, "I at least want to buy your gas." So I wound up with the shoes. Well, sometime later on, one of my former teammates had acquired the suit and called me up and said, "Would you like to buy it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I buy the suit. So I go to Daytona in February of '98. John's driving the 43 for Richard Petty, and I just said, "Hey, man," I said, "I've got your shoes and your suit. I sure would like to have your gloves that you were wearing when you won the 400.
You got chutzpah.
Yeah. And he goes, "Well, you know what? I don't wear that company. I don't wear that brand anymore, so I'll mail them to you."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Well, what about your helmet?"
You were going for broke, man.
He grinned at me and he said, "I keep all my helmets." And he had a really nice display of helmets in his house of stuff he had used over the years. So that's how that came about, and been real proud of it all these years.
Jamie, you also have some other items from that Daytona win. What all do you have?
I have the hat that everybody worked for in that business. You wanted that Winston Cup winner's hat. John autographed it, and it's the only one I ever got. But awful proud of the hat, and like I said, we had a team ring made for our first win at Cale Yarborough Motorsports, and John Andretti's signatures on the side with the RCA Ford with our names, and Cale Yarborough Motorsports logo on the other side. And we I'm awful proud of that now. I always wanted it to be have 100 more miles on it and be a Daytona 500 ring, but
Yeah.
that one eluded us. But I'm the older I get, the more proud I am for winning the firecracker with John. Just a great day. We put it all together. Those days don't happen often for people, and I'm proud of it.